Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? No Bull today, no G Bush. It is McNuggets in the host chair alongside.
What you mean, no G Bush?
Did I say no G Bush?
Yeah, you just
No, I said no
canceled
Bull
me.
or J.
You said no Bull, no G Bush. Get the hell out of here. He's out of here. I was like, but I'm right here. I showed up
Jay's
today.
not here. G Bush did show up. G Bush was early today. Shout out G Bush, who's been on a streak, by the way, of about a month and a half.
Iron Man.
Of early G Bush after
I was the last one today.
10-month hiatus of being early. Jason Lloyd in the house. We got Earl the Pearl back there behind the glass. How you doing this morning, Earl?
What's going on, man? Everybody out there on that set doing. Me, Steve, Anthony back here holding it down, doing what we do.
Yeah, you guys are behind the glass, and before we get into today's stuff, I want to mention something we did last night. I want to give G a special shout out.
I saw this.
Yeah.
I did.
So we're going to do, this has been something Earl, myself, and Anthony have been speaking about for a while, and we did the first one last night. We're calling it the Behind the Glass Cast. Essentially a podcast, a live stream we're going to hop on. Try and do it once a week. Me, Anthony, Earl, shooting the, talking whatever's going on in the world that day. I know we can say shit, and sometimes I just feel bad about actually saying it. So, it's that hesitation. It's that real TV background coming in.
Somewhere Bull's like, bad job out of you, McNuggets. Grow pair.
He's definitely cursing me off right now. But, yeah, we hopped down. We talked for about 45 minutes on some Cavs rumors. G. Bush was in the chat.
Yeah.
Spitting out rumors.
I was like, I was starting all the rumors and then telling them that Jason Lloyd actually said it. Jason Lloyd told me yesterday. No.
You're trying to get me.
But no, we broke down some of the Darius Garland, is he going to be traded, is he not going to be traded rumors, the future of the Cavs in free agency, which I know we'll touch on again tomorrow. But if you didn't, go check it out. It's called Behind the Glass.
I like it.
It is on our YouTube channel. And the one thing we can do there that's a little differently than what we can do here is it's a live stream like a post-game show. So we get more fan interaction. We take comments live. We can put them on the screen. For whatever reason, and I do not know the answer, our systems downstairs in the studio don't actually have the capability to put comments on the screen, but restream, you just click on it and it pops up. So we can interact with you guys more. We had a lot of fun. Earl was not with us last night, but he will be with us on the next Behind the Glass cast. So Earl, I know you said you got a chance to go back and watch. Did you have FOMO not being there last night on the first ever Behind the Glass
Man,
cast?
anytime I'm not behind the glass with my boys, it's a tough thing to watch from the outside. But I thought you and Anthony killed it. This man right here to my right, I think he doesn't give himself enough credit of how talented he is in his own growth. So shout out to my man Anthony, who was out there killing it. Make sure that you all are tuned in to that. We're gonna try to do this once a week.
I liked it.
Once a week. If there's something breaking, maybe more. But at least for the summer months here,
I liked it.
once a week. And if you guys liked it enough, then maybe it comes twice a week. But for now, it is once a week Behind the Glass. Hopefully you guys go back, check it out. A lot of fun stuff. And Jason, before we get into anything today, and Earl, we'll get to the Guardians in one sec, but we were taking some trade ideas from the chat, which could always get a little crazy. These are unfathomed and out there. One person mentioned yesterday Wemby for Mobley and Garland.
Spurs would not do that.
That's what I said. But I thought it was a fun, fun hypothetical.
And then one of you said, I think it may be you said that Spurs wouldn't do it for anybody.
I don't think there's I don't think they trade Wemby for anybody. I mean, if they said Jokic for Wemby straight up, maybe. Giannis, maybe, but I don't think they trade him for anybody. Yeah,
I think.
I tend to agree with that, I think, just because of the age and contract. With Wemby.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone in the league that they trade him for.
And the new CBA comes into effect tomorrow. We're going to break that down for everybody. It doesn't start tomorrow. It comes into effect on July 1st, but free agency does start tomorrow, and those have some hand-in-hand ties together. We'll break that down for you tomorrow. And before we get to today's topic, Earl, you got some giveaways and some reads to do.
We got some giveaways. We got a couple orders of business that we need to get taken care of. But, Mike, I think we might have found another nickname for Anthony. Shout out to Freddie B in the chat, the Prince of Parma.
Oh.
I think I like that.
I still like Kansas Spelly.
Well, Prince of Parma, just call him PP. Anthony PP.
You jerks.
But speaking of the chat, so we went back and forth on how we was going to go about this.
Okay.
So we got to give away 4 tickets to the USFL Championship.
Yep.
Pittsburgh Maulers, Birmingham Stallions, man. Shout out to our man Boogie. Give me the 9th person with the word subscriber.
Ooh, I like
Again,
that.
the 9th person with the word subscriber. Speaking of our YouTube page, our PCC Airfoil question of the day is posted on our community tab today. It's not going to be in the chat. So we need everybody in the chat, everybody that's part of the UCSS community. Go over to the community poll, chat on our question of the day. Our question of the day is, what do you believe the Cleveland Cavaliers' most significant issue is? The 3 options are roster construction, coaching, youth and development, and we'll give the answer at the end of our first hour. While you're over there, make sure you're subscribing to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show as well. If you're already subscribed, make sure you go to tell a friend, a family member, a coworker, associate, a stranger, a baby, a baby's baby, the whole 9.
Yeah, tell everybody, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do. It does help us go a long way. And we're going to start today, Earl, with the Guardians, who put up 14 runs yesterday. Little fun fact for you guys. It's the 2nd time in Cleveland baseball history a Bell and a Ramirez have homered in the same game.
Wow.
Just a different iteration of Bell and Ramirez. This Bell doesn't have an E on the end of his name.
I think I would still take this version of the old version of Bell today.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
over Franmil Bell.
As like today, as constituted, like. Yeah,
Albert, I'd take Albert, bad, busted hip and all.
You know, Manny's still playing too. He's playing in he's playing A ball, low A ball, like somewhere in Nicaragua or something, dog.
Well, either way, it was a 14-1 thrashing over the Royals last night. Ramirez got it started with the grand slam early on, then the Guardians kept piling on. Bo Naylor hit his first home run. We're going to get into the second part of this topic, which is how much of a lead can the Guardians build in first place moving forward. But let's start with the game last night. 14 runs. It's their highest offensive output of the season. I don't want to say are you surprised by the offensive output, but frankly, it has become so few and far between these offensive magnifications. Do you think bats are contagious? Like, are hot bats contagious in the sense that we saw last night, 3 home runs lead to 14 runs?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, streaks go both hot and cold. When a couple guys go cold, it can be contagious. When a couple guys get hot, it sort of relieves the pressure off everybody else, and that's also contagious. I mean, the Royals are a AAA team. That certainly helps. Like, hey, you got to feast when you can. And baseball is such a wonky game that stuff like this sometimes emerges out of nowhere. We saw it last night with Domingo Germán. He got absolutely destroyed in his last 2 starts and throws a perfect game last night. That's the nature of baseball. And so a team that's struggling can all of a sudden have an explosion and put it all together. You know, I don't think this means that this is the launching point for the Guardians to go on some power tear. But certainly it was long overdue, and it was good to see.
Yeah, sometimes in these games, you know, like Jason said, like, you know, when you're playing baseball, like, you know, you can have a doubleheader. The first doubleheader, you get shut out and get somebody throw a 1-hitter or a no-hitter on you. The next game, you come back, and all of a sudden, you have one of the best games you've had, 2 for 3, 3 for 4, maybe a couple RBIs, a few home runs. You know, you put double digits on the board. The hardest part about, you know, talking about baseball is kind of like projecting whether this is an anomaly or this is something that you're going to be able to consistently do on a consistent, regular basis. Like, you know, and I think at this point where you're almost 80 games into the season and you're 500, the Guardians are where they are. They're average, right? They're an average team when it comes to you know, their overall construction. They're a below average power team. They do pretty good in the field defensively, but I don't think this is going to be any sort of sign that they're going to start waking up hitting all these home runs now. I will say, you know, one of the guys that has been really that I've liked to watch and has really done some stuff is Naylor, not Bo Naylor. The OG Naylor is actually holding it down. And by the way, Bo Naylor, I like what he did. I loved what he did, and people may not even really notice this. I love that he brought back the red cleats.
Yeah.
He brought back the red cleats. I haven't seen him so long. I'm like, yo, I forgot how fire that is when you throw him with them Guardians uniforms. I liked them, and they was low-key high tops too, and he got the Nike wristband. He looked the part.
Hang on. Either Cantaspelli struck again or else the Guardians changed their name again. The Cleveland baseball team has again changed its name.
Oh, yeah, there is.
The Guardian.
I think Earl did graphic.
That is not Cantaspelli. That's Earl the Pearl.
That's Earl the Pearl?
Hey, you see how he clicked that
Earl
graphic
the Pearl
quick
lost
as
some
hell.
shine.
Well, hey, two things on Naylor real quick. one, he's 6 for 19 in his last 5 games.
Yeah.
That's 312 batting average.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Mike Zunino had 5 hits all of May. I'm serious. In his last 5 games, Bo Naylor has more hits than Mike Zunino had all of May.
That's unbelievable.
He's 6 for 19. That's good.
unbelievable.
312. Obviously, you take that, you run to the bank, you give him a massive contract if you do it for a career. That's not otherworldly like Luis Ariz in Miami. And it's still more hits than Mike Zunino has had in the entire month of May. I went back and looked. This was the 6th time the Guardians have scored double-digit runs this season. So the question, are bats contagious? I went back and I wanted to see, well, if they scored 10 runs, how they do in their following game. What do you think they averaged in the day or game after a 10-run or more outburst?
2.7.
You said 2.7? Well, I was expecting that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you the answers. On April 3rd, they scored 12 runs in a win over Oakland. They won 4-3 the following day. So that's above. On May 31st, they beat Baltimore 12-8. They followed that up with a 7-6 loss. They beat Boston 10-3. The next day, they scored 10 runs against Houston, and that was that crazy 14-inning, 5 come-from-behind win, so a little skewed. They still scored 10 runs. They followed that up with a 6-4 W over Houston again. And then they scored 12 runs against Arizona, and we don't really want to talk about the game after that. That is the game. They won 3-2, but it took them 11 innings to score 3 runs. So they're averaging 4.8 runs the day after a 10-run outburst, which is way higher than their season average. So I do think there is even a little bit of statistical proof on top of what we see and feel in the eye test and kind of the vibe check that they are hot. But then if we go 2 games out, then we don't want to talk about that. Trust me.
Right back.
Those numbers get real ugly real quick. So hopefully this is the start of something to come for the Guardians. They are now in first place. They have 11 games left before the All-Star break, guys. What record do you think they have 1 game against KC. They go to Chicago for 3 games, and they have the Braves for 3. The Braves are playing unbelievable baseball right now, and they come back to Kansas City, or home for Kansas City for 4 more games. 11 games for the All-Star break. They are in first place. Earl, can we see the standings? They have a half-game lead over Minnesota. What do you think the division standings will look like come the All-Star break? Will it still be Guardians then Minnesota? And if so, by how many games will they be ahead of Minnesota for first place?
11 games, 45 and 44. I think it's probably. I think it'll be right around this. Did we get that graphic loaded? Can we talk? You want to talk about it now or later?
We bring them now. It's a phenomenal graphic if we have it ready.
So I just did a quick Google last night, and I actually had wanted, because Bulls talked all year long about how bad the division is, and has there ever been a team with a losing record in first place at the All-Star break? Well, it didn't go quite that. This is from MLB.com, and through the first 81 games, some awful records that wound up winning the division. If you look at, the Dodgers 10 years ago, from 38 to 92 is remarkable. Go down the list just a little bit. You see the 2022 Guardians, 40 and 41 last year after at the halfway point, and finished with 92 wins. And it's just kind of funny. I do think that the power is worse this year than last year, but a lot of the other things probably equate. And it just feels worse because I think expectations were higher. There was no expectations last year. So for them to be 40 and 41 probably kind of felt like about what they should be. And then they got red hot. All Tito teams get hot in July and August and really turned it on. And easily that could happen again. With the power situation what it is, I still have a hard time believing this is a World Series contender. But clearly there's the evidence that you could be 40 and 41 at the midway point and still win 90 games. At the All-Star break, you could be hovering around 500 and still win 90 games. There's evidence that it's easily doable.
And real quick before you go, G, those were teams who ended up winning the division, not necessarily the first-place team in the division.
That's exactly right.
So the Bulls, when Bulls says, I'm not sure if a first-place team has ever been sub-500 midway through the point and won the division, that's not an apples-to-apples graphic. But to your point, it's not unheard of for a team who struggled in the first half, catch fire in the second, win the division, and make a deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Guardians remind me of remember them old school Memphis Grizzlies teams with Zach Randolph,
Marc Gasol,
Grind,
Tony Allen, Mike Conley.
And the Grindhouse, they was always a 2, 3, 4 seed. They was tough to play. You knew what you was gonna get from them, but it was just tough to go in. But when it came to the playoffs, you just knew they just didn't have enough. Like You look at the stats, you be like, wow, Gasol is a defensive player of the year. You be like, Randolph had 20 and 10 like he always do. Mike Conley got 10 assists, 17 points. But then you look at the stats, you be like, well, that's just not enough for some reason. It's not going to get it done. And I look at the Guardians kind of the same way. Like, every year you can look at them and they could be 500, little above, a little below, going into the All-Star break. They'll get hot. They'll get to the playoffs. But, like, do they really, really, really got enough? Like, when you get, are they putting fear in people? Like, no. I don't want them to play the Guardians. I think it's the opposite. I think when the Guardians get in the playoffs, you're like, hey, they play defense, but guess what? It's defense. You ain't supposed to be making errors anyway. They got some pitchers, but let's get to the second or third pitcher. And we know we could always count on the fact that we're going to have more power than them. So for me, I think the Guardians have a nice team. I think they got a team that can do something and make the playoffs and win the division. But like Jason said, I can't really go out and be like, oh, these guys are going to really make a deep run, because there's deficiencies in the way they put the roster together. And
there's context we have to look at here. If the Guardians today were in the American League West, they'd be 10 games below Texas in fourth place. If they were in the AL East, they'd be in dead last place. They'd be in sixth place, 16 games behind the Rays. So because they're in first place in the AL Central, we said it all year long, this is not a surprise. The AL Central sucks. If they were in any other division in the American League, as of today, they'd be completely out of it. They're not even in contention for a wild card spot with their sub-500 record. I mean, they would be sixth place below the last place Red Sox in the American League East. However, they've benefited playing in the AL Central. When you play in the AL Central, you are literally never dead, unless you're the Kansas City Royals, who are non-existent. And like you said, on Monday or Tuesday, they're a quadruple A team.
Yeah, they're a 4-8 team.
They're so bad. So I don't say that to be negative about the Guardians. I say that just to put in context where they are. I do think, as you look ahead, we know Terry Francona's teams get better in the summer months. We know that some of the guys in this lineup are better than they've been playing. Andres Jimenez, better than he's been playing. Jose Ramirez has been better of late. I don't think we've seen a typical Jose season to date yet. Josh Bell can't be any worse. He literally can't be any worse. And I think Bo Naylor, by the fact that he's alive playing, is an upgrade over Mike Zunino. So when these pieces kind of come together, there's a lot of hope for this Guardians team to not just take a little step forward and end up being, 84 and 78 and win the division based on the fact that everyone else around them is terrible. I think they have the pieces to come together, especially with the young pitching and Williams, Bybee, Allen, Bieber. If McKenzie can come back this season, I wouldn't expect it, but if he can, you have the pitching pieces in place, you have the pieces in the lineup that in theory should play better as the season goes along to at least put an ounce of fear. I'm not saying this is the big bad boogie monster of the American League, but it's also not a team you see on the playoff schedule and just be like, oh, that's a cakewalk. Let's look ahead and pencil ourselves into the next round.
No. This season is a little more, it's just a little more intriguing because even if they make the postseason, the thing I'm excited about is, guess what? You're going to have potentially three rookies pitching in the postseason, right? So we talked about how great experience was, that we wanted to get the experience for Garland and those guys and Mobley when they lost the playing game to the Hawks. And people talk about how that kind of stunted their growth a little bit, set everything back a year. But this year, one of the silver linings is you're going to see how many young guys come back again that got experience last year, the Quans, the Jimenezes of the world. Now you got three new pitchers. Allen, Bybee, and Gavin Williams are going to get an opportunity to pitch in the postseason as well. And that'll be exciting to a certain extent to see how those guys do, because I don't think McKenzie's coming back. So you'll get the chance to see what they look like under those lights.
Jason, you haven't heard anything that would make you believe McKenzie will pitch again this year, have you?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, he's waiting on a second opinion. I think he's getting a second opinion. More than and really, it's do you have surgery or not? I think. I don't want to speak out of turn here. Do you have Tommy John surgery, or is there a way to rehab this without it? And regardless, whether you have it now or a month from now, you're going to miss all of next year anyway. So you might as well take your time on this and see if it's really necessary or not. But, yeah, he's not coming back anytime soon.
We talked about this when McKenzie was coming back from injury the first time.
Yeah.
And I know Jay was sitting here, and Jay made the point. When he was in the dugout, it seemed like he was kind of the energizer buddy the team was feeding off. And even the offense, he just seemed to be a locker room guy, a clubhouse guy that everyone loved to be around. And whether or not that actually translates directly to on-field results, there's no way to actually tell. But it seemed like they started playing a little better. Gavin Williams comes up last week. His first start, okay, not great.
Yeah.
His second start, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Do you think he has the potential to be a guy that the team kind of galvanizes around as, hey, this guy's potential is through the damn roof, and he's on our side now? It's not the Otanis, it's not the Ellie De La Cruzes, it's our guy, Gavin Williams. Do you think he has that potential to kind of be a galvanizing factor for this team?
Yeah, but probably not this year. I think it's a lot to put on a guy who's made 2 career starts, going into his 3rd career start. He's going to have growing pains just like everybody else. He's going to get hit around. They all do at this stage. He's going to have up and down performances. But, you got to remember, McKenzie's in year 3 now? So it's easier for him to sort of be that guy because he's more established. But they are what they are right now, and this is a young rotation. Obviously, it's going to be a young rotation for forever, really, with this team and the way that they operate. So I think they are going to rely heavily on Gavin Williams. We've talked at length on the show about Bieber and what's going to happen with him, and I still think they move him, and that's going to put even more pressure on Gavin Williams. It wouldn't surprise me if they go to a 6-man rotation for a little while. When Cal Quantrill comes back, it alleviates some of the innings off all of these young guys so they don't get overworked. But, the future on Gavin Williams obviously is to be that guy. I just don't know that you can ask him to be that this early in his career.
Oh, trust me, McNuggets. Oh, trust me. So this is setting it up to be like cover of Baseball America and
that's kind of why I'm
cover
asking.
Sports Illustrated where they talk about these 3 young arms. Get ready for everybody that got 3 young pitchers. They compare them to the Braves. Get ready, it's coming. Everybody wants Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz. It's going to be here. And they'll talk about they're 12 years old, they're 13, they barely got library cards, and they're the hottest things moving. Now, I don't know if they're going to translate that into some wins. I don't know if that's going to be a pennant, but they'll be exciting. They'll be the new darling. People will talk about them a lot in the rotation because it's very rare to have 3 guys up. And I'm surprised. I'm going to give them credit. I'm surprised the Guardians even did it. I thought maybe one of them, when I seen Allen, I thought, man, you know what? That I was salty because I'm like, well, we ain't seeing Bobby then. Then Bobby came up, and I was like, ooh, like Gavin Williams, he might be their whole other. No, they brought all 3 of them up, and I was like, wow. And it looks like that was part of the plan.
Oh, it was part of it. They had to. They had to. Number one, because you got to make a decision on Bieber, and you got to see if these other guys are ready. Number 2, it was time. They were. You have to have an opportunity in the big league rotation, but at the same time, like, when they're ready, you got to find room for these guys, and it's worked out. And this is how they do it. Like, there's another wave behind them that's a couple of years away, and this is how they're able to maintain with the payroll that they are and be as competitive as they are, is the way that they're able to produce this pitching.
All right, what's up?
So we're talking about these young, talented pitchers, and we get it. They're rookies, but if the Guardians make the playoffs, they're going to play a major role. We know what the changes was to the rules for Major League Baseball this year. But with Bo Naylor also being up in the big leagues, who's caught for all 3 of them, does that help with the learning curve? Does that help make things a little easier for these rookie pitchers?
Yeah, I think for sure it does. Yeah. Because this isn't day one where you have a catcher trying to learn all these new guys. They've all thrown to him, so he knows what they like to throw in certain situations and certain counts. Now, the scouting reports on the hitters change, but in terms of the comfortability of the pitcher and being able to get into a rhythm, it's such a delicate thing. I know it sounds silly, but that's why you have some pitchers that have had personal catchers, because guys just enjoy throwing to – they know how pitchers think, and they just are able to fall into a rhythm. So I think Bo having come up with these guys is I won't say it's a huge advantage, but it's absolutely it sort of fast tracks the learning curve from the minors to the majors.
And let me ask you this question: how much? I remember back in the day, my dad talking about just the simple fact that pitchers back then didn't. He came up at a time where it started to be where pitchers didn't hit anymore, because he talked about how he used to pitch and how much. Of a mental game it was when you're thinking about throwing pitches and getting guys out. It was just rough to be concentrating on batting. How much are catchers now calling their own games? Like, how does that happen a lot? Like, what level of input do they have? Like, is it just like he's up there calling what he wants to call, or is it more of a collaboration type thing between the manager, the pitcher, and the catcher?
I think most instances it's the catcher and pitcher calling the game. I don't think it happens very often where you get bench input. Maybe in a situation like this where it's a young guy, and I don't know the answer with Bo.
Ohtani calls his own pitches.
Yeah.
He's got that little thing on his bicep that
Yeah.
he pushes a button and it buzzes the catcher, and he's like, I'm throwing fastball. Boom.
Yeah.
Catcher knows.
And but a lot of times, again, when you work with a guy for a certain amount of time, you know what they want to throw. And I think it depends on the relationship. Sometimes if it's a young pitcher, you have to rely on your veteran catcher. And sometimes the other way around. Certainly if it's a veteran pitcher and a young catcher, the pitcher is going to tell you what he's throwing. But I don't think that there's much bench involvement on pitch sequences and stuff like that.
That's a little known. That's a little that isn't talked about a lot, which is a lot. Just the fact that like you're thinking about it, like kind of like a point guard in basketball, like. You know, does Chris Paul call every play? Like, is he calling, or is it just a situation where it's a flow? Like, coach might want some out of a timeout, or they'll just go with just basically some different.
Yeah, sometimes a lot of times coaches will make the call from the bench.
Yeah.
And so, since you mentioned it, in the finals, the first year LeBron came back in the finals, Blatt was calling plays from the bench. And LeBron was just coming down and running whatever he wanted. He wasn't even paying attention. I had people on the Warriors because by the time you get to the finals, everybody knows everybody else's plays.
Yeah, there's no secrets.
Right. And they were laughing. I had people on the Warriors telling me, the coaching staff, they were laughing because Blatt was like calling plays and LeBron wasn't even looking over there. He was just coming down and running whatever he wanted. and everyone thinks, whatever. I don't even get in the Blatt hole. And that's not. I mean, that's happened before too, where guys feel like they're on the floor. They have a feel for what's going on and what's going to work or not. But that was one instance.
That boy David Blatt, man, he just did. Listen, he felt like he had a whole nother program he had signed up for, and he get LeBron back, and then for the simple fact that LeBron went to the finals and had Delly and David Blatt, with major input, major roles, and won, that's amazing to me.
So to bring this back to the Guardians and cap it before we move on, they play the Royals, final game of the series tonight. Bieber's on the mound versus Zach Greinke, who I think might be 68 years old at this. I think he's on his 27th season.
And
he can still pitch.
He's not bad.
Still pitch.
So my question is, scored 14 last night. They scored 2 in the opener. Their over-under line is 5.5 tonight. Would you take the over or the under for tonight's game?
I would take the under.
Under?
I think Greinke's ERA is right around 4.
Greinke has not been bad this year. He's been
on a better
average.
team, he could have a better record. But I think 4 is probably where I would land on it.
Yeah, I would say 4. Greinke, like you said, he still could pitch. Like, man, he been in the game forever, and he still play for the Royals. Like
he went from the Royals to like 7 other teams,
and they came back to the Royals. Like,
he's the only person that ever wanted to go back to Kansas City.
like
sampling L.A. and Phoenix and all the other party cities.
The Greinke stories are legendary, though. He's his own dude.
Weird guy, but good for him. I'll take the over. I'm gonna go with my bats are contagious theory, and I'm riding with Bo Naylor. I don't care what anyone says. 6 for 19 in his last 5 games, and if he's hitting, I do think it kind of affects everyone else.
Well, I think he's got 5 hits in his last 3 games.
Yeah.
So, maybe he's starting to figure it out and string some things together. Obviously, we need more at bats to see. Yeah. I think he struck out in every game. A little alarming, a little concerning. Hopefully, that gets under control. He should walk more. The more comfortability he sees, the more he figures out Major League pitching. He'll be a guy who gets on base a little bit more than your normal catcher, hopefully. But yeah, it's good signs for him that maybe he's starting to settle in a little bit.
And he's not a bad athlete as catcher. Like,
he's
the play he made the other night. Did you guys talk about that?
We did. The pirouette throw.
He's not a bad athlete, man. He's not a stick in the mud, bro.
There aren't many catchers in the league who can throw that guy out.
That pirouette throw was crazy.
I have a theory. So he's so young, right? In not just in real life, but in catching terms, because he wasn't always a catcher coming through the system. His knees are still springy. I think if you catch enough games in Major League Baseball, just the toll of catching, I think there's less than 5 catchers, starters and backups in Major League Baseball that can make that throw.
You could be right.
That is completely unfounded by science. That is just me knowing that it hurts your knees, it kills your knees.
Just an incredible play.
Unreal, To
not only catch it, but then spin and still throw them out.
Dot. I mean, that was a dot.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be a special move. Like just like a Street Fighter, finish him.
If Zanino's back there, that ball's in the stand.
Oh, he doesn't get a glove on it.
Runners at third.
I hear we got some breaking news.
Yeah, man, we got a couple things for breaking news right now.
Hit us.
First things first, breaking news on the Cleveland Guardians Steve, you could take tag board 4. This is from Mandy Bell. The Guardians have optioned Logan Allen to AAA and recalled Michael Kelly. DeMarlo Hill will manage again today out of an abundance of caution for Tito. Just came out within the last 10 minutes.
Real quick, who's Michael Kelly? I'm not familiar with who that is in their minor league system.
I don't know. It's probably a reliever.
Allen pitched yesterday, so it makes sense that he'd be optioned down if they need an extra arm in the bullpen. I won't talk about someone I don't know. I've never heard of Michael Kelly in my life.
I thought that was like the Browns practice squad running back.
Yeah, that's John Kelly.
He's probably his cousin.
He's probably a reliever. I mean, you got a decision to make with Quantrill coming back, but
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing Logan Allen's out of the rotation.
I mean, he didn't pitch great yesterday. I mean, he threw 98 pitches through 3.5 innings, but he didn't give up any runs.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I don't know. I mean,
interesting. They have too many pitchers right now.
they do.
They got to figure out the rotation because they have 6-7 guys who are competing for starts, and you can't go to a 7-man rotation. That's just not plausible.
That's interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, Earl, what's the next one?
All right, man. So as we move on to the Cavs, we got more breaking news. The Cleveland Cavaliers are fully guaranteeing for Jetty Osman, $6.7 million contract for the 2023-24 season. Sources tell ESPN.
That's no surprise.
Yeah.
I'm still not convinced he's on this team next year. They could use him in a trade. That's a very manageable contract. But that was paperwork. They weren't going to let him. They weren't going to cut him loose.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't got nobody else. I mean,
Well, are we gonna get right into the topic, Earl? Because if it does, this leads into one of the graphics.
Yeah. So our next topic on the Cavs, and it kind of goes with this here. You know, we all know what the Cavs' issues are, but which issue to you three rank higher in priority? Being the roster construction, the coaching, or simply just the youth of some of the players and the development of some of the players?
Well, I know Jason's going to go off on this one. So, Jason, do you want to start or do you want to
Go ahead.
clean up here?
You go first.
All right, well, I'll go first. We'll go down the line this way then. I think it's fair to criticize J.B. Bickerstaff. I think it's fair to say this team had no playoff experience last year. But I think this roster, top to bottom, is extremely flawed. I have two main rules in basketball. There's a lot of little ones, but two main ones I'll live and die by. One, wings win rings. And two, you can't win if you can't shoot. Let's look at this Cleveland Cavaliers roster for a sec. To my fellows to the right, how would you grade the Cavs' cluster of wing players?
cluster.
D-.
They don't have any F.
Would you say this team can shoot?
No.
No.
Judge, case closed.
Yeah.
But in totality, they have the stars. They drafted Mobley. They traded for Donovan Mitchell. They drafted and re-signed Darius Garland. Jared Allen fits in that role. He's an all-star. I don't think he's an elite caliber player, but he's certainly good. They've done the hard part, and I'm going to steal Jason's line. I know he's probably going to touch on this again, but it's the other parts of the roster that they have, in my opinion, catastrophically failed to fill out to maximize the talent at the top. You can't go into a season again with guys on the wing, especially in the 3 and 4 position or 2 and 3 position, whatever you want to call those wings, who can't shoot consistently. They need guys to space the floor to maximize the talents of their two bigs who neither has shown a propensity to make jump shots outside of the paint, and their two guards who are elite at creating off a pick and roll. Defensively, yeah, it worked in the regular season, but they weren't tough enough in the postseason. They didn't have a dog. That comes to your general manager, to your front office, to find guys to fill those side roles on this roster, to give this team a little toughness, a little grit, and even veteran leadership. I give Kobe Altman and the front office credit for trying to get Danny Green. It didn't work out as they planned because he didn't turn out to be the player that they thought he could be with the rest of the season moving forward. And we look at these numbers. Offensively, they were efficient because they didn't shoot a lot of threes. In today's day and age, you wouldn't die by the three. This Cavs team was built to play basketball in like 2004. Newsflash, that was 2 decades ago. This roster is not currently constructed to win in today's era of NBA basketball. And for that, if there was all the issues in the Cavs, and I do think it's fair to criticize other facets, the poor roster construction, in my opinion, is their biggest flaw. Last year, and without some major changes, will be their biggest flaw heading into next season. G?
As much as I would like to come on here and give you something different, and give you another perspective, a different angle, I would love to do that. I would love to say, you know what, McNuggets, it's the coaching or it's just the overall youthful exuberance of the roster. No, I can't. You hit on a lot of things. One thing when you talk about the roster, I look at some of the guys that they got. Not only do they not have small forward depth, they don't even have a small forward, not one. If you look at the Cavs wing players right there, Caris Levert is not a wing. Caris Levert is a two-guard. Isaac Okoro is a non-shooting two-guard. Jetty can technically classify as that. Lamar Stevenson is not a wing. Like, these guys have skill sets of power forwards. These guys got skill sets of 1992 power forwards. Like, they play like Xavier McDaniel and Terry Cummings and Buck Williams. These dudes can't shoot outside the paint. Lamar Stevenson is not scared of nobody on the playground, on double rims. He's not. If he's at the Y, we like self-checked, let Lamar pull up. Listen, the fact that Isaac Okoro is a 6'3" power forward cracks me up. He's not even P.J. Tucker. At least P.J. Tucker going to be a 6'3" power forward who's going to be gritty. He's going to get offensive rebounds. And I love Isaac Okoro. He's like the nicest guy in the world. I like him. He's cool. He's a great locker room guy. But the reality of the situation is we've been closing our eyes trying to make him be a 3 for the longest time since he got here. And it just doesn't work. You take a look at what he's bringing to the table. You take a look at the size. And not only the size, look at the length. You got Garland, smallish. Donovan Mitchell, smallish. Then you're putting Okoro in, and Okoro was 6'5". So look at and you're going against these other teams, and I'm looking at the lineups. I'm like, that just puts so much stress on you defensively, and then not to mention offensively when you're playing with two bigs. The roster is constructed with odds and end parts, and I just don't see where the thought process was in trying to get these guys to fit and mold into a cohesive unit.
Jason?
Yeah, I have to agree on the personnel, and it's to me it's roster construction. I said it all throughout the playoffs: shooting. You got to have shooting. Elite defense is not as important as shooting. You can win with average to even subpar defense if you have elite shooting. It's a lot easier to win that way than it is with elite defense and subpar shooting. And the Cavs just don't have any shooters that scare you. And that's the biggest issue going into free agency, and that's the biggest need to address. They have got to find more shooting. And I've given them a lot of credit on this show and elsewhere for their ability to find guys like Dean Wade and Lamar Stevens. They've been scrap heap finds that they've developed into useful pieces. And Dean Wade should be a good shooter. He wasn't last year, whether it was the shoulder or the mental after Kevin left. He fell apart when they moved on from Kevin. So you hope that maybe that's a guy who can sort of refine his shooting form. But they have to go out and they've got to get others. And while they've done a nice job of developing some guys, they've missed on the wings. Like Austin Reeves, Max Strus. These are guys who were trash heap guys who other teams found, discovered, and turned into really useful pieces who are now going to get paid. And now it's too late for where the Cavs are at, because you can't take an undrafted guy now, or even an Amani Bates, who we talked about the other day. It takes 3 years minimum for those guys really to be useful on a useful rotation piece on a team trying to win a championship. Well, Cavs are in that window now. As soon as they made the trade for Donovan, they became a team trying to win a championship. So where do you go? We can have that conversation probably here maybe today or tomorrow. I've been high on Dante DiVincenzo. I've kind of cooled on that a little bit. I was kind of poking around. I think Max Strus is probably the best option for them in free agency. He's probably going to be more than the mid-level. That's where a contract like Jetty could come in useful, and a sign and trade type thing. If you have to overpay over the mid-level, then it becomes a sign and trade issue, and they don't have a ton of useful pieces to pull something off, but that's where they have to get creative. The problem with being capped at the mid-level is there's a lot of teams that have the mid-level. So now you have to sell yourself to free agents on what else can you give them. They clearly have a hole at the three, clearly, but they just have to find more shooting, regardless of where that comes from. And if you look at the list of teams that won championships, because that's what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to win a championship. Go back over the last 10, 15 years and look at the starting small forwards on all of those championship teams. It's guys like LeBron, Kevin Durant, Giannis. The only exception where it's not a transcendent superstar type player is really this last year with Michael Porter Jr., a really good player, but not obviously in the class we've talked about before. Andrew Wiggins on the Warriors last year. A really good player, but not on that
And he
list
did
that we're
play
talking
phenomenal in the playoffs last
He
year.
did.
He played
He
lights
upped
out.
his game to another level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Harrison Barnes back in the day with the Warriors. But what did those teams have? They had unbelievable shooting and transcendent players, and Nikola Jokic.
That plays small forward,
Jamal
power
Murray.
forward, and point guard.
Right, and the Warriors obviously with the best shooting backcourt in the history of the game.
Yeah.
So they and the Cavs don't have that. Like they have really nice pieces. Their backcourt is terrific, but let's be honest, Darius and Donovan are not on the level of prime Steph and prime
It's
Clay.
like you say, if you don't have a good 3, you can win with a top 20 player of all time.
Right.
Not a top 20 player in today's NBA.
Right.
Like top 20 all time, and that's where Steph, Jokic, and those guys fall
That's
into.
exactly it.
Donovan Mitchell, All-NBA second team, obviously a very, very good player, an all-star. He should make 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more All-NBA teams in his career, but I don't think anyone's going to come up here and argue that he's a top 5, 6, 7 guy in the NBA.
Earl, do you want to make that argument?
No, I'm not. But I got a question for you, Jason.
Go ahead, buddy.
So, you've educated me on how important the wing position is in the NBA, and I think that's something that all coaches, all general managers, all scouts know. And I feel like now, just listening to you all debate this topic, why make the trade for Donovan Mitchell if you know you need an impact wing? Do you think Kobe Altman actually explored trying to get a wing player first, or was it all about just trying to acquire Donovan Mitchell?
Well, they tried getting a wing on the Nance deal, and there was no wing to go get. So they traded for Lauri Markkanen, and they made him into a wing.
But that I'm looking at it, Jason. Like they had Lauri Markkanen was a wing.
Well, I mean, Markkanen's a good player. Donovan Mitchell's better.
Yes.
And you know, why do you go after Donovan? Well, players of his caliber don't come along very often, although I think we're going to start to see it more and more over these next couple of summers. But at the time, you don't know. So Donovan fit perfectly age-wise with this nucleus. He filled a need, a scorer shooter. Like he is that, and that's what they needed. And he's certainly an upgrade over Colin Sexton, 100%. So I get why they made the move. And was it a year early? Maybe, but you can't predict when these guys are going to become available. So you got to go when they're there to be had. Would you rather have Donovan Mitchell last summer or Bradley Beal this summer? I'll take Donovan Mitchell over Bradley Beal.
Do you believe? I'm asking both of y'all. Do you believe what would the Cavs' record be if they would have just kept Colin Sexton, Abaji, and Lauri Markkanen?
So this is the criticism. This is the fair criticism of the Donovan trade. Of hey, we could have gone to the playoffs and lost in the first round with what we had. Like that's fair. Would they have won 51?
51
Would they have won 51 games? Probably not.
Maybe 40.
Do you
48?
win 43, 44? You're a lower seed and you get bounced in the first round, and then you don't have nearly the vitriol from fans that they felt this offseason, but it's because you pushed all in on that move and still won one playoff game and lost in the first round. That's where it's fair for people to say, well, hell, we could have done that with Colin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen. So what'd you do that for? Now, obviously, you have more in mind than 1 year, but that's where I think a lot of the hostility comes from. And I think that part of it is a fair criticism.
And Earl, one thing on the wings. Wings are like gold in the NBA. Like, really good wings just don't get traded. It's happened. Paul George has moved. Kawhi got traded. But look at the returns that those guys have brought back. Now, Mitchell brought back a significant haul in his own right. Like, that's not to discriminate what the Cavs got from Mitchell for anyone else. But when you say they should have went shopping for a wing, really good young wings on relatively team-friendly deals just aren't.
It's
kind of
like saying the Browns should have gone shopping for a franchise quarterback.
Right.
Yeah, like,
Right.
every team's out there shopping.
In the third round.
yeah.
Right?
So, no, I guess what I'm saying is, did he kick the tires on that first before he went about shopping for Donovan Mitchell?
They've tried since LeBron left.
And
Now, here's the thing. Would you rather – they could have got Scotty Barnes. They could have drafted Scotty Barnes, third overall, instead of Evan Mobley. Would you rather have Scotty Barnes than Evan Mobley?
No.
I wouldn't. I'd rather have Evan Mobley. I know
Agreed.
Barnes won Rookie of the Year.
No. I don't
But
like
that's
this.
why the Raptors took him that high. He's a nice player.
Yeah, he's nice, but he's not.
But
not
it's the
moving.
importance of the position is why Scotty Barnes went as high as what he did over some of the other guys. I'd rather have Evan Mobley, and that's where, they've tried. They've tried every offseason to upgrade this spot. I think that they've missed. On the Struces and the Austin Reeves, it's so hard to find those guys. It's hard to kill them. Well, why didn't you find Austin Reeves? But those guys are out there to be had, and they have developed Dean Wade, and they have developed Lamar Stevens, and they have made them useful pieces. But when it comes to win, it's a difference in the regular season and the postseason. you can win with Isaac Okoro at the 3 in the regular season. You're not going to win with Isaac Okoro at the 3 in the postseason, and that's where this is. That's the next step in this evolution.
I'll give him credit. That's why when people say, "Why are you so high on the Imani Bates pick?" and I'm like, because he's 6'9", he can shoot, he can create, he hits tough shots. When I watch playoff games, I see people hitting tough shot after tough shot after tough. Like, defense don't really, like you said something I totally agree with. Like in the playoffs, defense don't really matter. Like, it does. You can't be atrocious. You can't be bottom 2. But, like, in playoffs, it's about shot making. These dudes is pulling up and not missing. Like, they got shot hands and closeouts, and it don't matter.
Well, and part of the defense thing is it's effort. And the reason elite defense in the regular season doesn't translate to the postseason is 97. Is that too high? Maybe 90% of the time during the regular season, the other team's barely playing defense. They just don't try. And you can say that's not true. I'm telling you, I'm telling you,
and
it is true. They don't try.
Night to night, you can't game plan for guys.
Yeah, exactly, because it's such a quick turnaround. In the postseason, teams step up their defensive intensity because they know, hey, we're out if we lose.
Yep.
And everyone's defense improves, which is where difficult shot making, to your point with Imani Bates, and he reminds me a lot of Michael Porter Jr., especially early in his career, where it took Porter Jr. overcoming some injuries.
You just compare Imani Bates to Michael Porter Jr.?
Their style of play, where all he does is catch the balls, take step back threes.
Listen.
That's what I'm saying. You watch enough, he reminds me of Michael Porter Jr.
Worst take of the year.
Hey,
Jason, get off my back now.
I'm just saying that's who his game reminds me of.
Hey, listen. Here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to tell everybody.
You're going to get your heart broke by Imani Bates.
Nah.
You're going to get your heart broke.
No.
Listen, yeah, you are.
See, here's the thing. I'm looking at it not even from an emotional standpoint. I'm looking at it from like this. If the Cleveland Cavaliers can develop Dean Wade, and Dean Wade don't have the natural physical talent that he has, why can I not believe that if Lamar Stevens can make it, he can't make it?
We'll do a deep dive on Imani Bates. We'll do a deep dive. We'll do the deep dive. Don't worry, it's coming.
We'll get to it. Jason, we're going to come back and visit this. Middle of the season, now he might be with the charge.
No, he's going to start.
He might be in Poland.
But at the end of the day, we're going to take a look at these stats in the middle of the year. Now, listen, JB don't be hating either. He going to take 7 to 10 bad shots in Summer League. It's cool. Let the man pull up.
This is what I'll tell you about Imani. I've talked to probably people from maybe 4 or 5 teams now. Right. No one has said anything good about Imani Bates. There's a reason he was there at 49.
Hey, listen.
And I'm not killing him for the pick. Like, I get the upside. I get why they tried it. If you have expectations for him to come in and help this team win this year, you're going to get your heart broke.
If Max Strus.
It took Max Strus 4 years.
That's what I'm saying.
But this is the thing. You got to expect, this is the thought process. At some point, we talked about development. If the Cavs want to get to a point where they respected around the league and they don't have money, they don't have cap space, they have to take a look at these dudes seriously. Not like, oh, we're taking flyers. No. You have to look at it seriously. You're not going to get the best, the cream of the crop. You're not getting the B prospects. You're not getting none of them free agents. So you can sit here and be like, oh, he's not going to do anything. But you got to realize you got to work with what you got, Cleveland. Ain't nobody coming through them doors and be like, yo, I'm here to save you. At least you got to do that. You would have, if it was 3 years ago, if you would have said, the Cavs are going to draft this guy, and he was a number 1 prospect in the country, you say, get out of here. He'll no longer be here. So, yeah, he fell off in 3 years, but guess what? There's opportunity. Where somebody else fails, it's your opportunity.
I'm going to say something nutty, but if Dean Wade can go back to the Dean Wade of the first half of the season, the guy that they signed to the contract to thinking they were going to get, it will go a long way in helping a lot of the issues that we're talking about because he can shoot. He's a big who can shoot. And you're not asking him to start and give you 38 minutes a night. You're asking him to give you 20, 22 minutes a night, grab a few rebounds, hit a couple threes. That's it.
Yeah.
And that will make a lot of this other stuff. If Caris Levert is wildly inconsistent, but he is what he is, you have to sign him.
We're going to talk about that in 1 sec.
All right, then I'll table that. Caris Levert, if you can find a shooter with the mid-level or in a sign and trade, and if Dean Wade returns the player that you thought you were signing that contract, it's going to look a little bit better than it does right now.
Oh, we got the poll results here?
No, we're going to actually do that at the end of the first hour.
Gotcha.
But before we talk about Caris Levert, I'm gonna say this about Imani Bates, and I promise you, I'm gonna leave it alone. I hope he hears the noise. I hope he hears the fact that nobody has anything good to say about him, that nobody really believes that he's gonna have a significant impact on the Cleveland Cavaliers long term. I hope this dude finds deep within himself that extra to just basically silence the haters. And that's what I'm looking for. Like I told you all the other day, you can't measure heart and you can't measure that chip on your shoulder. I don't care what scouting report you put out there, man. When people constantly talk down on you, talk down on your name, that'll piss you off enough to go be great. That's all I'm saying.
We're going to find out. Because he's going to be in the Summer League in,
we going to see.
What, 9 days? Summer League tip-off? So we'll see what Imani Bates
By the way,
got.
I like that other kid they got too. What's his name? The other undrafted kid. What's his name? From
So
Wichita
as we're
State?
talking about the Cavaliers and how their roster is constructed, reports are out there that the Cavs are set to offer Caris Levert $15 to $18 million a year annually. I know G said that he's not truly a wing; he's more of a two guard. So, what is exactly Caris Levert's role on his team, and how can he have the biggest impact for the Cavaliers?
Jason, I want you to start because I actually texted you yesterday to confirm what I thought. But will you explain why there's a 0.0% chance they don't re-sign Caris Levert?
Well, Caris has kind of got the leverage on them in this, and if you remember, you go back to, it's sort of like with Tristan and JR during the championship run. They're going to have to overpay for what his value truly is because they have no options to replace him. It's either sign Caris Levert or no one. It's not like you can take that money and spend it somewhere else because they're over the cap, and because they retain his rights, they can offer him more. So really, I don't know what the number is going to be, but it's going to be high because he's really got the leverage on them. And if you remember, the contract Tristan signed, the contract JR signed were outrageous.
$85 million.
And it was it was, I think, similar. Now, it's not going to be, I don't know. We'll wait and see how the numbers shake out on this. But I do think Caris is back. I think he's a bench player. I think he should come off the bench. It's overkill with him in the starting lineup. I don't care. You start Okoro during the regular season. It doesn't matter. But it's two different conversations. It's regular season and postseason. It doesn't really matter what you do in the regular season at that spot. I know we just got done saying it's the most important position, and it is, but they have enough talent around them that they can win 50, 55 games again in the regular season with Okoro, and it doesn't really matter. What matters is the postseason and what they do with that mid-level spot and Levert, and then you sort of figure out after you see the whole season play out, then you figure out what's our best approach for the playoffs. But I think Levert's I think his shooting is desperately needed off the bench. We just got done saying shooting, and they just don't have great bench scoring options right now.
G?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy because, I hate to say somebody that can get 50 points in a game is like inconsequential, but this is the catch-22 and the dilemma that you have. I was listening to Chris Broussard the other day, and he just was saying, like, the Cavs are stuck in that middle place. Like, they're a good team. They're going to win a lot of games in the regular season, but unless they can get somebody to go to another level, it ain't going to, it's just not going to work. And I'm starting to believe, like, the move has to come from within. Like, the move, like, the Cavs ain't going – the Cavs –
You know what the move is.
The Cavs ain't like, just pull themselves up by their, like, bootstraps. Or they're not going to pay people this money to come in here and save them. That's not happen. Like, they got to get to a new level. And one of the things, and it's kind of off to the side, the Darius Garland thing is like, okay, we laughed about the rumors, whatever. But you know what those rumors and all the talk told me was that there's another level that there's to be attained from Darius Garland. Like,
yeah,
there better be.
What people are saying is that ain't enough. Like that. Like, if you think Darius Garland is a finished product, and that Darius right here as today is a guy that is gonna be taking the Cavs somewhere different. Nah, we talk about Mobley a lot, but Darius Garland, he got to get better too. Like, it ain't no like just one or the other. And I think. And we keep talking about, and it's not just the Imani Bates. It's an organizational philosophy. It's I need to be very like I need to be scrupulous on the people that we pick. I need to be looking at upside. We need to develop. We got to develop Mobley. We got to develop Garland. They got to get better. It's a lot. We got to get tougher. It's a lot of self-coaching and self-development stuff that the Cavs have to do, because I don't think that from that outside help ain't coming. Ain't nobody coming to save you.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Real quick, I disagree that the Cavs are stuck in the middle. I think that's unfair for Chris to say, or for anyone to say. This team is too young, and they have too much of a ceiling still in front of them with guys like Mobley, and Garland does have another gear or two to get to. I think that's wildly unfair to say.
I think he was speaking from a place where, as right now, they're stuck right now in the middle, like where if the players don't get no better, like they're in the 3-4 based on their talent.
Yeah, but Mobley's 21. He's going to get better.
Right.
Even if he does,
yeah.
right, Garland. Even if Mobley doesn't reach the levels that I've thought that he would, and they think that he will, he's still going to get better. Like this team is going to get better.
Yeah, and I'm with Jason on that. And the move, you keep saying, what's that one move? The move is Mobley develops a jump shot, and I don't like not all the Cavs issues. A majority of the Cavs issues, spacing wise, having a perimeter guy in the corner when these dudes drive to kick out to. It's not all solved with Evan Mobley becoming a consistent three-point shooter, but it alleviates so much pressure on the rest of the offense.
Yeah.
And he did not take, this is a knock on Mobley. We expected, and we talked about it yesterday on the show, the jump from a rookie year to year two. We talked about it in terms of football yesterday with Tyvus, but it happens in all sports. And Mobley was better in year two than he was in year one, but he was a worse jump shooter. Now, part of that is opportunities. Part of that is not getting into the rhythm of the offense as frequently with Donovan Mitchell. But, hey, jump shooting is something you can work on your own. And I don't care if you get 4 opportunities, you get 8 opportunities. You got to make the most of those opportunities. And Evan Mobley needs to show some sort of significant improvement, in my mind, in terms of his jump shooting, if he's going to ever reach the potential, I think, Jason, you allude to, the ceiling, that true unicorn status that we all think he could become, and that's why the Cavs drafted him 3rd overall. That's the move that unlocks the rest of the roster without adding another guy who costs $30, $40, $50 million with in-house.
That sounds good.
Yeah, now, could it happen? Yeah, I don't know. Like I thought it was going to take a baby step towards that last year. He went in the opposite direction, but I'm going to hope,
it's a lot of
one step forward, 2 steps back?
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's 1 step back for 5 steps forward.
Ben Simmons, we still waiting.
It's fair.
Giannis, we still waiting on that consistent jump. Scotty Barnes, they're going to start talking to you in a couple seconds. Hey, you going to spread the floor, Scotty? I know you want to get to the rack, but pretty soon.
Some dudes are not shooters.
Right.
And, you could have good form. You could have good mechanics. Some guys just never develop the touch that takes to consistently make an open jump shot or even a contested jump shot in the NBA. And I don't have any reason to believe Mobley can't develop that, but it has happened to guys.
And I would argue, if you get to the trade deadline next year and it hasn't happened and it's clear that this is what he is, at least for now, then I think you really have to entertain the Jarrett Allen conversation. And it's nothing against Jarrett. It's having to play 2 non-shooting bigs together. If you move on from Jarrett, make Evan your center, really open the floor up and put playmakers around them.
You saying this year or next year?
This
upcoming season.
They're not trading Jarrett Allen right now.
Okay.
But if you get, and I'm just spitballing here. I haven't put a lot of thought into this. I haven't.
Yeah.
This is where I get into trouble. This is where I want
Jason,
to
what you're saying makes perfect sense, though, because if you go through 2.5 seasons, and Evan Mobley hasn't shown us he can be not even a true stretch forward, but a forward with the ability to stretch, then he's a 5.
Yeah.
And 2.5 seasons, you could develop into something later, but you can't keep waiting in a championship window.
We know the clock on Donovan.
He has to be a 5 if he can't shoot, and you can't play 2 5s together.
And then I just, again, I haven't talked to anyone. It's just me spitballing. If we get to the trade deadline and Evan hasn't advanced as a 3, because I agree with you. I said the correction to this is if Evan can stretch the floor, now you're not playing 2 non-shooting bigs together. I think it's unrealistic to think he's going to go, what was he last year, 28% from 3?
21% from 3 last year.
I think it's completely unrealistic to think he's going to go from 21 to 35 or somewhere in that range in one offseason.
But get close to 30.
Yeah, that would. But I just think if you remove Jarrett from that equation, make Evan your center, and then you're able to put – now, again, they have a deficit in shooting as it is now. But there's just a way to open up the floor because I'm only thinking about the playoffs. I don't care about the regular season. We're just thinking about the postseason here. You can play Jarrett and Evan together in the regular season. It doesn't matter. we just saw how easily it is to expose teams that don't have enough shooting in the playoffs.
And this is the thing. You're trotting out 3 non-shooters. And when I say non-shooters, I'm talking about the nonest. Because the Coro is right in that mix, too.
He might be the worst of all 3 of
right?
them. Earl, it is officially noon, and you know what that means.
Before we get to that, let's read the results from our PCC Airfoil poll. And as always, if you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, well, PCC Airfoil is the lead manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoil in Eastlake, Menor, Whitcliffe, and Minerva. They're hiring right now for positions starting at $18 and up. Get full benefit packages, paid time off, and sign-up bonuses. Apply online today at precast.com/careers to learn more. So as we told you at the beginning of the show, our PCC Airfoil poll question was, what do you believe the Cleveland Cavaliers' most significant issue is? We had 1.2 thousand votes. So shout out to the
YouTube community.
Yeah, shout out to the UCSS community. Roster construction, 46% of the vote. We had 29% of the vote with youth and development. 25% of the vote was coaching. So a lot of people believe the roster that Kobe has put together is the biggest issue, and JB is probably the lesser of the evils. And as you said, it is noon. And as always, the 12 o'clock hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is brought to you to our good friends by the Call It Companies Championship. You get to see your favorite golf legends play in the Call It Companies Championship July 12th through the 16th at the famous Firestone Country Club in Akron. It's fun, family-friendly events all week long featuring new fan-zone experiences, free attendance for kids, and concerts every night. There's something there for everyone. Joining us right now, making this Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show debut, a pretty good friend of mine, Fox analyst, Cleveland native, John Fanta. John, what's going on, man?
Guys, it's great to be with you. It's great to be on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show for the first time. I love your guys' work. I love what you're doing in Cleveland. It's unlike any content that the city sports scene has. So it's a thrill to be with all of you.
John, we appreciate you taking some time. We'll get into the real stuff first, but I see you got a mini basketball hoop over your right shoulder there. John, how many times a day do you walk past that, take a shot, dunk, and yell Kobe? If it's under 10, I'm disappointed in you.
Well, I love the Mamba mentality, and I love Kobe Bryant. But for me, all I hear is a PA announcer saying Z for Zydrunas Ilgauskas. That's my childhood.
That's
so I always tried growing up to mimic the Ilgauskas. It looked like it was in slow motion. The baseline jumper from 15 feet away that seemingly always went in. I will never forget when Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Jason Lloyd, correct me if I'm wrong, he hit 3 threes in Sacramento in a game, LeBron era, and Fred McLeod and Austin Carr are on the call. And Ilgauskas just goes off in the second half and ends up canning 3 triples. The game was well out of reach. But I loved Big Z. He used to go to Mitchell's Tavern. I grew up in Westlake. That guy would house like 12.5 wings. And he was the nicest. He was the nicest guy in the world to everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful human being. I know Z fairly well. He's great. He's a great guy.
Do he be there all the time? Is he still with the organization?
Z, no. Not in an official capacity.
Okay. Because I know he was doing some stuff before, like a little bit.
Yeah, he's not made for front office type role.
Yeah.
Not in that organization.
Yeah, he's not doing that.
So, John, but right before you came on, we were talking about the Cavs and some of their current roster construction. They currently have 2 bigs who, at the moment today, would be considered non-shooters. Do you see a fix within this current roster? We were talking about maybe, or hopefully having Evan Mobley develop a jump shot that could kind of unlock this team's offensive potential, or do you believe it has to come from someone outside, whether it be free agency or a trade?
So it's funny because I could relate to Jason before when you guys were talking about this situation of that when we're talking about these hypotheticals and scenarios, as I talked about yesterday on a different show, sometimes your words can get taken as either something that you know or basis that you got. I'll give my opinion. I think that it's got to come away from the roster. I don't think that the Cavaliers can fix their problems and be a team that has a chance to contend for a championship with their current roster construction, which obviously the fans agree with today. I also don't think that they should get ripped apart or torn down by any means or overly criticized for the way that Kobe Altman and Mike Gansey and his team, their team, have constructed their roster. I don't think in any way anybody should be overly critical of how the Cavaliers have constructed this team. Part of the nature of the roster that they have, with 9 players under the age of 25, is that you've got a team that's learning on the fly, that's developing on the fly, and that's relying on growth. Now, the question I have heading into this season, the 2 questions I have are, number 1, after you got embarrassed by the New York Knicks, if the regular season is diminished in its value, which I think we all agree that it is, and the playoffs is what it's all about, which it should be, how do you become a legitimate threat to win the Eastern Conference? If you're not thinking that way, I don't know why you're doing it then. Because you were just in a 4-5 series. You were the 4 seed. You got beaten 5 games. That was a bigger alarm to me than I think the Cavaliers front office made it to be when the season ended. They gave front office speak. That's what they did. I don't mind them for that. I'm not going to blame them for that. We hear that every day in Berea. It's going to happen over with the Cleveland Browns. It's going to happen. You hear it with the Guardians. You hear it with any professional organization. But if they don't go out and make a move of significance or moves of significance, I'm sorry. When has running it back worked really well in the NBA? In the NBA, where there's a totally different season within the year. That is the off season, where you've got to improve your roster. How do they do that? They've got a conundrum there. But it's why I've had the opinion where I don't think Donovan Mitchell's going to be here a long, long time. Okay? I think there's a window open for the Cavs to keep building towards a title. Like, isn't that the way that they should be thinking? If you're the 4 seed in the East, shouldn't you be thinking about how can we get up into the top 3? How can we make the next move? That next move doesn't happen with the guys you currently have. I do think that it comes down to more than just natural development. I think it's going to come down to reeling in a piece or 2 and potentially doing something that might ruffle some feathers in the moment, but I wouldn't blame them if they tried to do something different, because I got to tell you guys, in the NBA, this is not a 4 to 6 year type of thing, a 3 to 5 year let's wait and see. That's not this league. Teams get better overnight. Teams go for that championship. So now I'm wondering if the Cavaliers, what they're thinking behind closed doors of, okay, how do we build on this with the core that we've got, and how do we go for it?
You know, John, I'll let you know. I agree with you. Like, for me, I'm the way I like to talk about things, I'm aggressive. Like, I don't got no time. I'm 41. I don't got time to be waiting 3-4 years for nobody. And to be honest, you are correct. Every single year, these guys in the offseason are getting better, or you're either getting worse or you're getting better. And so from my standpoint, I do think that they would question and go back and really rethink the Donovan Mitchell trade. If you go back to last year, do you think that they have some, I wouldn't say buyer's remorse, but do you think that they would think about that trade a little bit differently because of the way the season ended up last year and kind of the restraints they put on the organization?
I don't think so, because I don't think that you're the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference without getting him. And I do think that this season they did take major steps. I mean, are you going to have remorse for getting a guy who look at the numbers? I mean, you can't argue with that. He sets a franchise single game record for points scored. Now, to be able to do what he does consistently is fantastic. But the consistency hasn't translated to the most important time of year. Now, in fairness, part of Donovan Mitchell's career arc is for him to be able to figure that out. And maybe in year one, playing with Darius Garland and playing with this new group of players, maybe year two means that there's a better opportunity to figure those things out. But I'm not going to be critical of the Cavaliers going for a guy who I think is a top 5 bucket getter in the NBA. I really do believe that. If you want to criticize him for his lack of postseason success, I'm not going to say that's unfair. I don't think anybody would say that's unfair. But when they had the opportunity to get Donovan Mitchell, there was a group of followers and people that are fans that said, well, I really like Colin Sexton. I think we can build around him, or build with him, rather. I'm sorry, but you're not going to keep a guy like that if you have the opportunity to get Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchells don't grow on trees. Like they don't just grow on trees. You can't just, in Cleveland, you can't just have your chance to get a player that good every offseason. It's not there unless you're doing something just beyond bold or something crazy with your team or there's a terrible breakup or something like that. Like, there are certain circumstances that had to fit in for the Cavs to even have the opportunity to get Donovan Mitchell. So I don't regret that at all. They should have no remorse for getting Donovan Mitchell. To me, this is more than just a Donovan Mitchell problem. They don't have a bench. They do not possess a bench. I mean, if you look at these other playoff teams, look at how the Miami Heat made a run. Albeit improbable. I get it. I know it was surprising. They had a bench. They had depth. They had Gabe Vincent. They had Caleb Martin. They had Max Strus. Come up and hit shots. The Cavaliers don't have that. Like, let's not lie to ourselves here. If you think Chetty Osman's going to be on a team that makes a deep, deep Eastern Conference playoffs run, you're sorely mistaken. And it's not to put him down. It's just, we got to look at the reality of the picture here. The Cavs are not deep. They have a depth problem. And in a playoff series, that matters. The Knicks had more depth. They had more toughness. And that's why they totally wore the Cavaliers down. So I do think that there's things that need fixing. Again, I would just say the Cavs got humiliated by the New York Knicks. I don't think that front office feels any good about where they might tell us that they do, but they got to be pissed off with the way this season ended because it washed away the opportunity to fully validate a 51-win regular season.
John, my man, I want to play off of that. So I heard you yesterday on another local sports radio talk station, and me and you share the same sentiments. I think I texted you about it. The Cavaliers overall as a team is soft. And when you're soft as a team and you've been exposed as soft by the rest of the league, it is really tough to run it back. But when you go to acquire talent going forward, you just can't outright ask a player, do you have toughness? So in your opinion, how can they get over that hump of finding guys to fit the mold of being tough, both physically and mentally, going forward?
It's a great question, Earl. And I guess you sit here and say, all right, well, if we did get a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference and we did win 51 games, is there something or someone internally that toughness can continually come from? And I don't know the exact answer to that question, but I do think that you've got to be strategic in what you do. I understand what I thought Jason, before I came on, made the point of just talking about the potential of Jared Allen and Evan Mobley and how that dynamic works and the scenarios that could come up with potentially making a deal or doing something with Allen. I mean, those are all obviously things that could pop up in our hypotheticals. But, like, here's my thing. All right, here's my course of logic with this, Earl, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong. You don't have depth. There's not a whole lot to fear coming in off the bench. You've got a core 4, but you don't have a great team. To me, do you have to potentially break off one of those core 4 to make the team better? I think that that's what's going to end up having to happen. And I also think that Jared Allen and Evan Mobley works for the period of time you brought up, the regular season. I don't think it works in the playoffs. And I think the fact that it doesn't work in the playoffs means the writing's on the wall. I love Evan Mobley. I don't think he's touchable at all. I think he's got a terrific upside. I think his combination of athleticism and explosiveness is really special. And the motor speaks for itself. I really like this kid. I think he's only going to continue to get better. But I do think that I think there's such a thing as, and this is kind of how I view the Cavs as a whole. They've got some pieces that have helped them get to a really nice point. All right? That's a good thing. It's a positive thing. It's not a loss. It's an organizational win. They were in the darkness for a couple of years, not a long time after LeBron James. I mean, Cavaliers fans should be grateful that they've got winning basketball in this town. It didn't take them 10 years to figure stuff out or 7 years to figure stuff out. I mean, they've developed a plan, and the plan has gone well. But sometimes the guys who helped you get on the map might not be the ones to elevate your franchise to the next rungs of the ladder. That sometimes is hard to swallow because those guys did help you get to a certain point. But like any great company that's trying to evolve, you might have to rip some Band-Aids off and take an educated risk. I don't think it's going to come this offseason. I don't think that the chances are high of that. But you might end up having to do that at some point, because if you don't do that at some point, your window could close.
Here's the argument I guess I would make for not making major changes and running it back. And I know I just got done saying maybe at the trade deadline you have to make a move. But the Denver Nuggets did pretty well for themselves by staying the course and staying patient. They didn't have and they were a young team that kind of grew together, Jamal Murray and Jokic, and let them grow together and figure things out. And the Cavs are so young, and they sort of emerged quicker than we thought that they would. They went from really, really bad to pretty good pretty quickly. And that I think, and then the Mitchell trade I think skews the timeline, and that they did to themselves. And I agree with you. I don't think they regret the trade. I don't think it was a bad trade, but that certainly speeds up the clock. But I think that there's something to be said for you just have to let this thing, you have to let these guys mature, and you have to let this play out. Denver went from, I think it was like 46, 47, 48 win team to 53 in a championship. And Jokic is in year 8. Murray's in year 6, 7.
1 year after, yeah.
So, we're talking about Evan Mobley who's going into year 3 and Darius is going into year 4. We want it like that, but sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. I don't know if there's a question in there. It was just a rebuttal, I guess.
No, I think this is a great debate. I mean, I think, and Jason, you've been around the league long enough to know that these processes have different results. I mean, the Nuggets case is a refreshing one. They did stay patient. Jamal Murray was crying at one point, thinking he might not be a part in the Denver Nuggets when he tore his ACL. They kept faith in him.
Yeah.
They kept faith that he would be a great player. Still, after the torn ACL, a confident player, a leader. I would say that, and I did bring up on a local program yesterday the possibility of that I wouldn't be surprised if they did something bold. And honestly, it was a take. It was an opinion. Jason, the guy who hosts that program, he knows how to get people in trouble quickly. I
think it's batshit crazy to think they're trading Darius. I don't think it's happening. It's batshit crazy.
I think that's correct. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I look at it, it's outlandish. There's no question about it. And it wasn't honestly, it was a take at 8:17 a.m. that that it's early in the morning and you're thinking through things and you start throwing out here's my thought though. Okay, so here's my rebuttal to the rebuttal. What happens if 10 months from now the same stuff happens? The same result occurs?
What, a first-round playoff loss?
Yep.
But you're trading Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
And you're recouping whatever you can for him. And you're going forward with Darius and Evan as the core pieces to this team. And possibly Jared Allen.
And how many years does that set you back?
I don't know if it sets you back. He's still got two really good pieces in Darius and Evan Mobley that a lot of teams around the league.
Under contract for at least
With
3 years.
no picks.
A lot of league.
But you get picks back from
But you're going to recoup from Donovan some
Right.
of what you lost.
So you getting picks back too?
I mean, I don't think
Who
you're going to
knows?
get 4 picks, but you're going to get picks
I mean,
back.
it's impossible to know. But if you want to go the picks route, yes, you're going to get picks back. If you want to go the player route, you can probably get some sort of player back. I have no idea. We're trying to project something out now that's 12 months out, 11 months out. But if they lose in the first round again next year, there's probably a lot of people getting fired and Donovan's getting traded because he's got a year left on his contract. He's not coming back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess go ahead.
No. You go. I got a next question to take us off this, but you finished out here.
Plus, they don't have moves to make.
Right.
Like, that's the other thing. Like, that.
Right.
If they had all this cap space or they had, young players under contract that other teams would want or something like that, maybe you're having a different conversation. You have other picks to trade. They opened the cabinets and they threw everything at the Utah to get Donovan. There's nothing left. And maybe they can swing a sign and trade for one of these guys who's going to be over the mid-level. Maybe. But they are so limited in what they can do. I just don't think it's realistic to think that there's a big swing out there for them to make because they made it last year and teams very rarely have the opportunity to make big swings like that in consecutive off seasons. It's just because of the assets that it takes to get it done.
Right. Unless you swing one of the big assets and do something out of the box, which I mean, all signs points to them not doing that. I'm not saying, that they should do that. I think yesterday my point was because we were talking about it and we're talking about it now. How do you change this team? Like Mike started the discussion by saying, does it come from within or does it have to come externally? Honestly, like I don't know. If I'm the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, the next season I want to contend for a title.
Yeah.
I don't know if this. I don't consider this team a title contender as they're currently constructed next year.
Hey man, listen. I tell you like this, man. Stand on what you stand on. For me, it ain't too many players in the NBA who can't get traded. I'm sorry, Darius Garland. You're a nice ball player. Darius Garland is not first team All NBA nothing. Let's be real. We like him. He's our guy. We got an affinity for our guy. But I'm not gonna sit up here and act like this dude is the second coming of Steph Curry, Allen Iverson. No, bro. Like if I'm looking at a general manager for the Cleveland Cavaliers has to look at every opportunity to turn over a leaf to get him over the hump because you paid a boatload of picks and assets for Donovan Mitchell. So everybody on the table. I'm sorry. Just keep it real. Hey, in real life, I'm on the table. You on the table. McNuggets on the table.
Yeah.
Jason ain't on the table. He on the company, but it's all good.
Well, that actually leads right to my next question, John. Outside of being a Cleveland diehard, you do a lot of your work in the college basketball realm. And you watch know more about college basketball than maybe anyone we've ever had on this show. We realized college basketball in Cleveland doesn't mesh as well as Cleveland Browns and Cleveland fans do. So I'm in the middle of a deep dive into Emoni Bates. G has watched, he says, 30 games of his. I know you know college basketball better than anyone.
30 kind of steep. 30, I said about 15 McNuggets.
Oh,
Don't
sorry,
get
you
me in
got
trouble.
15. All right. So between us two, I'm halfway through my deep dive. But, John, you call games on the Big East. You are in the college basketball world. You've seen Emoni Bates for 2 seasons now, his first season at Memphis, his second season at Eastern Michigan. I haven't heard you give your thoughts on Emoni Bates, but what do you think of the Cavs pick at 49?
So it's a pick that makes sense in the position they were in the draft. At 49, this was not a particularly great draft class. And in any draft class, when you have the 49th pick, if your pick is past 45, there are a ton of agents and players that are starting to call people being like, we don't want to get drafted. We've got a team lined up post-draft that we got an invite from. We'd much rather be in that setting. That's a very real thing late in the draft. At 49, the Cavaliers are in a position where, what do you have to do? Well, if you're going to do anything in that spot that could produce value, and I know everybody out there is like, well, Nikola Jokic, there's only one. Okay, there was only one Nikola Jokic. There's only one Taco Bell commercial pick that pans out to that. Let's be honest here. You can't compare him and that pick and the commercial running during it. We've heard that like 70 times.
The big quesarito, baby.
I love my quesaritos. I've had too many to count. Having said this, we can't get into the world of comparing and contrasting and all that. Here's the thing with Emoni Bates. He's 6'10". His length and playmaking are things that stand out. They've got potential. When you can combine that frame and that length with the ability to handle the ball and score, okay, I could see the projectable. I could see why you picked him 49. Now let's talk about why he was 49. He has been criticized for kind of being lazy at times, being focused on himself, not really being a particularly great teammate, not looking for the right basketball play, but looking for the play that helps Emoni. Now, here's the thing. He's not coming into this organization and contributing this upcoming year. Anything that he did this upcoming year would be surprising to me, and I think it would be surprising to people in NBA circles, that's for sure. NBA circles, frankly, don't love Emoni Bates and don't see how he pans out. But, what do the Cavaliers have that not every NBA organization has? They've got great people running their ship. They've got stability. They've got a program and a connection. And locally, I mean, their G League team plays, right next door. They've got the connection to potentially groom a project like this and make him a better basketball player who makes smarter basketball decisions, who becomes more mature. He's got the potential. I mean, that's there. I don't think it's nowhere close to the degree as where it was when this kid was 15 years old. That was unfair. The Sports Illustrated article that he could be the next Durant, we should never call a 15-year-old that. I mean, not to get preachy, but it's not fair to a 15-year-old in today's climate. Because if they ever have failure, look at today's era of social media. Kid has gotten torn apart the last 2, 3, 4 years of his life. Kid has gotten criticized. He's brought some of it upon himself. Charges were dropped, but he had things that were away from the basketball floor that ended up causing him some trouble and caused some drama behind the scenes. But, he could not find his footing at Memphis. He ends up at Eastern Michigan. And frankly, Eastern Michigan was a better team when Emoni Bates was off the floor than when he was on it. So I get the idea of Emoni Bates. I don't blame the Cavaliers at all for picking him at number 49. But let's be real here. There's a better chance that this doesn't pan out than it does. But that happens a lot of times when you're making a late draft pick. The pick made sense. We'll see if Emoni Bates' development does too.
We got time for one more here, John and G.
Oh, listen. Well, we didn't even get to the Guardians. I wanted to talk to you a little about little Guardians. You take a look at this. 3 young prospects. We talk about Shane Bieber and whether or not he's going to be moved. Are you of the thought process that you keep Shane Bieber? You don't trade him this year. It's almost like the Donovan Mitchell effect. But it's the Shane Bieber effect. Are you gonna get it what you get for him? Are you gonna keep him? Are you gonna where do you land on Shane Bieber now that the Guardians are technically in first place by a slim margin?
I know. It's interesting because we're talking about a first place baseball team that is under 500, and frankly has a little shot to win a World Series. I mean, I understand the arguments out there of look at baseball and qualifying for October and just get a ticket to the postseason, and you never know what can happen. Guys, that's not baseball this year. I mean, it just isn't. I was reading a tweet last night from a guy who covers the sport nationally. He's like, the great thing about this season is there's 4 fan bases that are happy with their team. Right now, there's not parity this year in the sport. You look at the start that Tampa Bay got off to. If you look at the whole American League East division versus the Central, I mean, the American League has 7 teams that are under 500. 5 of them all 5 from the AL Central make up 5 of the 7 teams in the American League that are under 500. You got to look at the writing on the wall. They can't pay Shane Bieber. Could they still win the American League Central without Shane Bieber? Yes, they could. They could do that. This division is not very good, and the Guardians still have talent. They've got talent, and they've got developing talent, and I'd like to see them do some things in their outfield a little bit differently. I'm done with the Miles Straw experiment. I know that show's had plenty of that on here already. I don't need to go on a tangent off that somewhere. Someone's ears are ringing, and we all know who. But I think that they can trade Shane Bieber. I think they should trade Shane Bieber because I think you got to be real for the now, and you could get some ready now talent potentially. You can also build up your farm even more. You can look towards the future, and I still think you're going to have a competitive enough team to be able to make a run. The biggest factors for this team to keep up their recent play, they're 7-3 in their last 10, they're 14-8 since June the 3rd, they've got to have offensive versatility. Andrés Giménez has got to keep hitting. Can they get Josh Bell going a little bit more? Because it's not been great thus far. But I think you got to trade Shane Bieber. I think it's the right thing to do. It's in the best interest of the organization to do so. I hate it. I know it's part of the climate. I know it's things that we don't like. But I think, again, that it's sometimes what you have to do for your organization's best interest. They could still win this division. I think they will win this division. But I think it's the best move for the Guardians and their present and future.
That is John Fanta, college basketball extraordinaire, Cleveland native and diehard, making his debut on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. The first but not the last, John. We appreciate you taking some time to hang out with us today.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Fellas, thank you for having me. Have a happy 4th, Cleveland.
Awesome.
Right.
That was John Fanta. We're going to pivot now to a little Browns talk, and this is something that we have had a back and forth with relationship over the last at least a couple weeks, maybe going on a month now, but the DeAndre Hopkins saga. It was reported yesterday, Sal Palantonio, who was on ESPN Radio, not in Cleveland, just nationally, said that the Browns are still lurking for DeAndre Hopkins. And then a few hours later, Albert Breer came out and said the Browns are content with their wide receiver core and they will not be pursuing DeAndre Hopkins. Mary Kay Cabot came on the radio this morning and doubled down on that, saying you could take it to the bank. Hopkins will not be a Brown. Jason G., who wants to start, like it, love it, hate it, DeAndre Hopkins, Browns, the rumors officially appear to be squashed.
Man, listen. Sometimes you're, but am I tired of the rumors? I'll take the rumors. You know why? Because there was a point in time when it was garbage to a point nobody wasn't being rumored to come to Cleveland at all. No one cared. Like, you was not getting free agents. Nobody was coming for trades. So yeah, I'll take it. I've always said, like, look, man. You know, if DeAndre Hopkins wanted to show up to Cleveland and be a part of it, like, we got the bag, pull up. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like when you was in high school. Like, look, when I was a freshman, you know what I'm saying? Back then, y'all didn't want me. I got hot. I'm a junior now. I get buckets. We good. The Browns used to be that lowly little program, and people never mess with it. At the end of the day now, we got ball players around. We got Deshaun Watson. We got Chubb. We got Myles Garrett. We got Zadarius. We got guys that could play the game. Amari Cooper. So it's not like we begging you to show up. Like, if he wanted to be here, he got the plug with Deshaun Watson. We got the cap space. He know what our roster looked like. At the end of the day, I just feel like DeAndre Hopkins needs to make up his mind where he want to go. Because at the end of the day, the Patriots are interested in him. They just, I think they gave Devontae Adams some money. Devontae Adams. I'm sorry. It's a major difference in Devontae's. But I will say this. He needs to just figure out where he wants to go, because I think he wants a bigger market than it is out there. Like, and people start to feel like, well, you trying to raise the price a little bit, and that's what you should be doing. But at the end of the day, if he wanted to come, he can come. Like, the offer might be still there, but I'm not tripping on it either way.
What up, bro?
Gee, I got to give you some pushback on that, because I think you're viewing it as DeAndre Hopkins told the Browns no, but it sounds like to me that this is a situation to where Andrew Berry is saying, no, I'm cool on this. I don't want to go this route. And if that's the case, is Andrew Berry making the right decision?
I actually have an issue with this. And you touched on it yesterday, Earl. The only known factor in the receiver room is Amari Cooper. Everyone else is potential. Elijah Moore could be really good. We just haven't seen it yet. DPJ is a solid receiver. We don't know. I think this is an all-in year for the Browns. We've talked about it. If they get off to a bad start, I think Stefanski's gone. I think a lot of guys are getting fired, and this could turn into a situation where a lot of the guys that we've come accustomed to seeing in a Cleveland Browns uniform are not there. In an all-in year, in an AFC as loaded as it is top to bottom, where there are 10 teams who I think legitimately could be in contention for a playoff spot, I think Hopkins, at minimum, is the difference in at least one win. Do you guys think that's crazy?
No,
I think Hopkins is the minimum difference of one win.
That
minimum.
ain't crazy. That ain't crazy.
A game where he goes off, dominates, has 2 touchdowns, and we look back and say, hey, DeAndre Hopkins was the X factor in this game that allowed us to win. And in a crowded AFC, one win is the difference between going 9-8, 10-7, 11-6. And I think there's going to be 6-7 teams in that range where one difference is the spot of making the playoffs or sitting home in January. And they're all in. Like, at this point, why not take that last step and go all in?
We've kind of seen how they handle it, though. Like, this reminds me of the way they handled Clowney the first year. Clowney wanted a little bit more money, and they said, well, look, we got the 11-12 for you here, right? We would like to have you back. It's up to you for your agent to figure out where you want to go. At this point, if you're looking at DeAndre Hopkins and you're looking at the way things are looking, you'd be a fool not to say that your best look is not in Cleveland with a quarterback you already played with a team that got a running game and a nice offensive line and a defense. Like, so you have to think about, what does he really want? Like, if I'm looking at the roster and the money is relatively the same, and I'm looking at the Patriots with Mac Jones, or I'm looking at Deshaun Watson, like,
or the Titans with nobody.
Or the Titans
those
with,
are the 3 alleged finalists.
So okay, you could go play for them, but then I'm starting to think that you just want the rock, or you just want to be the guy, or you're not really into winning. Like I always say, listen, we assume everybody wants to win. We assume winning is on the top of everybody's pecking order, but I don't know, Jason. If the money is there and it's available and he ain't taking it or he don't want to visit, like, I can't make him do it, right?
I mean, I've said all along, if Deshaun wants him here and he wants to be here, they're going to figure it out. This kind of tells me that I don't know if he's really a high priority for Deshaun. Like, let's be honest about it. If Deshaun pounded the table and said, I want him, go get him,
he'd be here.
It's going to be hard to dismiss that, given the voice, the position he plays, and the contract that he holds. So is he better than David Bell? Yeah, he's better than David Bell. Like, he could be an upgrade for a lot of teams in terms of the receiver room, but not everyone's pursuing him. And there is the rollover factor of the cap. There is trying to preserve space because of what's coming ahead. Every team has to have one eye on today and one eye on tomorrow. We saw it last year with Garoppolo. I think that's why they didn't pursue Garoppolo, was all the money that they could roll over into this year, which allowed them to do certain things and not pursuing Hop, although I don't think it's going to be a very big number the way, as long as this is going. Maybe we're surprised and some team writes a big check for him.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm kind of ambivalent on the whole thing one way or the other.
I said from the beginning, I didn't think there was anything Cleveland could do extra to attract DeAndre Hopkins to the Browns. Like, if he wanted to play with Deshaun Watson, if he wanted to be a Brown, he would have been a Brown. I didn't think there was any financial number amount they would have offered that would change him from being like, oh, I'd rather go to New England than Cleveland. Because I think the money's going to be the same. I just don't get, and I'm actually aligned with Earl on this one. To me, it sounds like this is Andrew Berry saying, I like Moore, I like DPJ, I like Bell, I like the rest of the guys in the room. Tillman, outside Cooper, obviously Cooper's an established number 1. That I don't think we need him. And my point is, this AFC is so freaking loaded, top to bottom. Literally, you have the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens, the Steelers are competitive. The whole AFC East, all 4 teams are there. You have Jacksonville. Like, that's 10 teams. I think I should count 11. 11 teams that will be fighting for 7 spots. And this is a year. If this was last year for the Browns, it'd be like, okay, it's year 1 of Deshaun Watson. You still have a lot of guys whose contracts are not at their tipping point. Maybe you don't need them. You see how this year goes. Then next year we go all in. I think this is an all-in season for Cleveland. It is. In my opinion, it's an all-in year for Cleveland. And if you're all in, you're all in. You can't be 85% all in. If you're all in, go get DeAndre Hopkins. Make him an offer he can't say no to. Because I do think, at minimum, he's the difference in 1 win. And 1 win's the difference of us saying, who's going to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns next year? And saying, hey, Kevin Stefanski took us to the second round of the AFC playoffs. Give the man a 10-year extension.
It's a fair point. There's jobs on the line this year. And they all know it.
I'm the 6-game captain. I said, bro, at the last year, I said, you punted last year, you got 6 games. That's all you got. I'm not dealing with it. I can't do it no more. Here's the reality of it, though. You know how you work with somebody, and I'm not saying this, you know how you work with somebody a little bit, and you might be working with them, and you don't really never come out and say it, but like, man, he kind of difficult to work with because
I say it. Anthony's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, like, you know, but you don't got it out in the public. So we don't know. Deshaun Watson, the quarterback, and for the most part, Deshaun Watson don't say nothing controversial. Like, to be truthful, it's not like he was gonna come out and be like, "Yo, I think I like DeAndre, I like D-Hop, but he was kind of washed."
Right.
Yeah.
He's not gonna say that.
No.
He's just gonna put the cape on and say, "Yeah, get my guy," and then behind closed doors, like, "Nah, he ain't really got much. Like, we might as well roll with DP." Because, like, I'll give you credit. It is what it is. If he really wanted him, name me one quarterback that make that much money that did not get.
Aaron
who they
Rodgers
wanted.
just brought 7 of his Green Bay Packers washed-up teammates to New York. But
Washed.
actually, you just made me think of something. And Jason, to your point, I'm gonna do a little spin zone here. Pro Browns fans, ready? Maybe Watson's in there saying, "Hey, DPJ is a freaking baller."
Yeah, like
he might be like, listen, he was my favorite target in certain scramble situations last year. I know that's not his typical makeup, but guess what? We have developed this chemistry. And yeah, D-Hop's my guy. I love him, but I want DPJ in the field. And if we bring in Hopkins and DPJ's not there, I'm not saying that's happening, but maybe that is the conversation Watson's having with Stefanski and Barry behind scenes that we're not privy to, that we look at it and say, well, D-Hop's an upgrade over DPJ, bring him in. But Watson on the back end's like, nah, DPJ's my guy.
and Watson gonna be held accountable for that too.
What's up, bro?
Well, I think for me, me and McNuggets is on the same page. I really think that if he wants to come, he should come.
here.
I think Andrew Berry should go after him. But I, in the back of my mind is something that Jason told me, I think, last week, that whatever money that they have on the books now, they're going to use that to roll over into next year. Is that correct, Jason? Like, he's comfortable having that security.
You can roll the cap year to year. Anything left over 1 year rolls into next year's cap.
Yeah. And also, if someone gets hurt, to sign someone mid-season, you have to have a little cap space open to sign somebody. Like, there are reasons financially not to bring him in. My point is, in my opinion, this is all in season. Like, if jobs are on the line, you go all in. You don't care about next year if you don't have next year guaranteed.
And why would, and here's the thing about Deshaun Watson, why would you not, like, he has a say-so in the way his career is going. If he's a dude that knows he's behind the 8 ball once he gets his career back, why would you sit and not say, I want this guy to come help me out? That's on you too. Like what were you thinking about?
Oh, what's up, my man?
All right, man. So let's give away some tickets again, of course, and then we got another read. We got the creator of the new dog logo sitting in the chat, so we can't wait to talk to him. But I'm a NASCAR guy, so the third person to type Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the chat gets the next set of tickets to go see Boogie and his Pittsburgh Mauler teammates take on the Birmingham Stallions and try to win that championship. Shout out to my man, Dale Earnhardt Jr. anyway. I know you listening somewhere, my man. I know he is.
I thought you were going to go with Ricky Bobby. I'll be honest. I thought you were going to go Ricky Bobby in the chat. But
don't nobody care about Ricky Bobby. He ain't got more wins than Dale Jr. Dale Jr. got, the second most restrictor plate victories in NASCAR history?
Wait, Ricky Bobby's Talladega Nights. He's not real, is he?
Yeah, but Dale Jr. won more at Talladega than he ever could. Don't get me started.
I didn't see a comparison graphic of fictional Ricky Bobby stats and real Dale Earnhardt Jr. stats. That's your assignment for tonight.
And they just let a yuppie named Jeff Gordon come take all the records.
Hey, man, don't talk to me about no Jeff Gordon, man. It's all about Earnhardt.
Shout out
here.
to the DuPont team.
All right, we got one more read earlier.
And speaking of shout-outs, shout out to the Call It Companies Championship. Make sure you go see your favorite legends play in the Call It Companies Championship July 12th through the 16th at the famous Firestone Country Club. It's out in Akron. This is a fun, family-friendly event all week long featuring a new fan zone experience. They got free attendance for kids and concerts every night. So there's definitely something there for everyone. Make sure you learn more at callitgolf.com. Get your tickets, and we look forward to seeing you out there. And with that, my man Houston, the creator of the new dog logo, makes his UCSS debut. What's up, my brother?
Hey, y'all. How's it going?
What's up, man?
We're doing good. Houston, my first question is, is kind of simple, but how does a student from North Texas, the Dallas area, end up creating the Cleveland Browns Dog Pound logo?
Well, so I've always been like a really big sports design nerd. You know, I mean, it's what I think about. It's what I do. It's just kind of it's just a passion of mine. And when I saw the Browns were having a competition, I was like, well, shit. You know, I feel like I have the chops to do it. And, you know, I've been a fan of many maligned franchises. I mean, I'm a Lions fan. I'm from Houston.
Oh, wow.
It's just pain. So, you know, I felt like I could relate. And I wanted to do something that I could really do something special, you know.
Now we gotta get to the paperwork. See, now look, I'm a marketing guy, and I like to have all my stuff copyrighted. I need to have everything with a lawyer looking over. Now, please tell me, they give you some sort of residuals. Do you get to keep at least 5% finder's fee for this logo, or you signed all the rights away?
No, I mean, I was compensated. I'm not
Okay, all right.
That part.
You got a little bag then. You got a bag. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as come on, Jimmy, do better. Get him some tickets too. Come on, man. Like, I need to see that.
So how long did it take you to come up with this?
It took me about a week. The initial sketch was kind of in a day, and then I worked on it more than my schoolwork for that week, just kind of putting it together.
It's fire.
You know, thank you. I really appreciate it. Just about getting the little details right and everything. So
okay, so I want to ask you about the details because you're not technically, you didn't really grow up a Browns fan. So all the little subliminal hidden things that you got in there, how did you know what to put in there, and how long did you have to research like what was important to the city and to the team?
Well, so, I mean, like, as somebody from Houston, I've spent a decent amount of time, like, learning about team relocations and things like that. There were a couple scares with the Astros right before I was born, and the Oilers and everything like that. So, I didn't really have to research too much about the Browns and their history and all of the stuff that's, you know, that was really important to them. I knew the story of the Dog Pound just because I've been a really big football fan all my life. And, you know, so it wasn't necessarily that I had to research all these things. It was just that it was finding a way to put them into the logo.
That's dope. So now Deshaun Watson is from Houston. You are currently in Houston. You did the Browns logo. By default, does that make you now a second or third tier Browns fan? You have to root for us now, right? Like, you created the logo.
You know, I'm more of a, you know, I grew up a really big A&M fan. So I actually was hype about Manziel, and I was hype about Myles Garrett. So I'd consider myself a Browns fan kind of through them instead. But, you know, I'm going to be following them this year. Like, I'm keeping my eye on them, hoping they win some games because they got a damn good team. And I know y'all have Jalen Darden, I think, as a reserve wide receiver. He went to UNT. Shout out, Go Mean Green.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm rooting for y'all.
All right, Houston, I have.
Hoping for a good year.
We got an Aggie guy sitting on the stage.
I did work in College Station for a few years. Big A&M guy. Listen, your logo's phenomenal. It came out awesome.
Hold up. Sorry.
Let's go.
There you go.
Gig 'em. No, I do have one tiny little qualm with your logo, though. I just got to ask this. The only, you know, we can't have you on and give you all compliments. You stretched Ohio in the dog's right ear to an extent that I'm not quite sure it qualifies as the state of Ohio. Kudos to you for trying to squeeze it in. But that's the only thing that I thought may have been a little taken out of context. But the fact you got 13 in, yeah, there it is in the if you're looking at the screen in the left ear, it would be the dog's right ear.
Oh, okay. I see it.
It's like it's Ohio-ish.
Yeah, it is.
It's Ohio-ish.
It looked like a T-bone steak.
I thought that was like, remember the TV show Columbo? I thought that was Columbo's pipe, his tobacco pipe.
Hey, but it came out dope, Houston. Hey, we want to show you because you beat out. Well, I think there was over 10,000 submissions, right? if I remember correctly, over 10,000.
I think it was like 400, but I mean, if you want to say 10,000, sure.
Well, that's because they didn't get all of them officially submitted to the correct website. We actually just want to show you. We took a stab at creating our own logos on this show ourselves,
Oh, okay.
and none of us are graphic designers. Earl, I believe you have ours ready to queue up.
Are you
Check these
serious?
out.
Well, you gave us 30 seconds
can't
to
wait.
draw this.
I'm just saying, we're going to take a look. that was mine, I think, right?
Yeah, that was yours.
I'm
Yeah, that
really
was
happy
mine.
you guys. I'm happy you guys had me on. You know.
So I just critiqued
really
Ohio. Feel
appreciate
free
it.
to
I
rip this
don't want
apart.
to. I don't want to say anything bad.
Bro,
about,
listen,
you can
this
rip
is
this
trash.
Stuff, 'cause, you know,
That is
I'm
trash.
Just honored
That-
to be here.
Oh my God, who did that?
That was mine.
Own it.
That's mine.
I got
yeah.
your back, bro. We behind the glass together. I thought that was a great 2-layer logo. I thought you did your thing with that.
Do we have any others to show Houston how much?
Yeah, here's the one right here.
Hey, okay.
That was
Okay, yeah, no,
Anthony's.
I'm with that one.
Oh wow, dude, that's like the sign they hold up like when you run in no huddle in college, a pack of Newports, a Bud Light, and a Chihuahua.
By the way, those Newport Kings, if I used to go to the store for my mother, you had to get the 100s. Those the Kings.
Oh yeah, listen. Oh my gosh, you had to go to cigarette runs too, man.
Houston, have you been approached by anyone else since this Browns logo became official to do some other collabs or creations?
You know, not really, but I'm hoping. You know, I'm always open. My DMs on Twitter, same name on Instagram. I have a couple of other things. I have like a website or whatever, and you know, I'm just sitting there with my email open. So
Have they told you where they're going to use this?
not really. They invited me out for a game in November. I'm really excited about it. And hopefully I'll get to see like where it is in the stadium. I know that it's going to be like used throughout it, but I don't know where specifically. We'll see.
Who from the Browns organization did you talk to throughout this process? Like, did you ever have a conversation with, Jimmy Haslam about
No.
this? Like, I doubt it got that high, but like, who throughout the organization ever did you have a communication with or a conversation with?
I talked to Mark Podolak, the creative director for the Browns, and he's kind of been the main person I've been talking to and through about all this kind of stuff, and he's been great throughout this entire process, and really supportive and just a great guy all around.
Man, listen, come on, bro. They got you coming out in November. You don't even know the team gonna be good by then, man. You come out in November, it might be cold as hell out here. They at least can get you to the south. You need an agent. You need somebody to get you together, bro.
No. So I get to pick my game. And I'm currently in Italy right now. It's like 90 degrees, and then when I go home to Dallas, it's gonna be.
I was gonna say,
what you doing in Italy?
I spent a lot of time in Dallas, and I knew that wasn't Dallas.
What you
I knew
doing
that
in
wasn't
Italy?
Dallas.
Yeah. I'm here for a study abroad trip. I'm actually leaving tomorrow, so I can't wait to get back to that feels like 120 degree weather. I picked the cold, man. I need some of that.
What the heck? See, y'all people in Texas, y'all go
different.
abroad.
It's different,
Y'all-
man.
What
It's
you mean you
different.
study abroad? Listen, I went to OU. Like, we studied down the street. They barely let me in the building. Like, you just go to Italy and just hang. I'm like, either he is somewhere in Greece or Milan. Like, he don't even care that he won the drawing. He's like, yeah, this is cool. I'm in
When I
Italy.
sent him the email, I sent Eastern time and Central time. I didn't know I had to send Italian time. Thank you, Houston, for being able to do that translation on your own, my man.
Good gracious. You
Oh yeah, no, you good. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, hey, Houston, when you're back in town, let us know. We'll put some of the new Dog Pound logo gear on display here in the set. Enjoy your trip in Italy. Safe travels back, and go Brownies. And gig 'em.
Absolutely. Thank you. Go Browns.
Awesome.
Gig 'em.
Man,
He's 21. That's 21 years old and having
That's
that on your resume.
incredible.
That is.
I was shocked when that's what came up on the screen, man. He's young.
Oh, you. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'd never seen him before. He's young.
All right, cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Young.
Awesome.
You're
All right,
welcome.
we got 5 minutes left. Earl, do you have a top five? We're gonna do final takes.
No, we're gonna do some final takes. We really don't get an opportunity to do that too often. So we got a 3-man panel. We got 5 minutes. This should not take long. Let's go.
Man, this is crazy, bro.
Do you want me to start? You want to start?
I got nothing. Go ahead. I'll come up with something while you're talking.
All right, this is going to be just a wing, straight off the cuff, off the dome. Or you know what we say, preparation, overrated. All the show notes I spent last night, this morning making, overrated. Why would I do that when I could just fly off the dome? No, real talk. It is the 28th, 29th of June. July 4th is next weekend. We have had maybe 2 summer days so far this summer. Cleveland, Mother Nature, what the hell are you guys doing? You can't take away my summer from me. I moved here last year. Weather was picture perfect. 80 degrees, no humidity. I was out on the beach as much as possible. I didn't have any friends with pools yet. Now I do, and guess what? Haven't been able to use them. You know why? Because your weather choices have sucked. So this is the final take to you, Mother Nature. Get this Canadian haze out of my face. Get these cloudy nights out of the way. Get the rain. Push it away. I need sunshine. I bought a damn new bike. Guess how many times I've been able to ride this bike? 3 times. That's about 15 times not enough for how much I spent on that bike, which we're not going to talk about. But it's a good bike. Thanks, Dad, for helping me pay for that. But all in all, where the hell has the summer weather been? It is way too late in the season to not have more summer days. The Guardians games, it's been nice, but you haven't had that real summer feel yet. And we can't be a week away from 4th of July, me looking around saying, I'm wearing jeans and a sweatshirt and I feel good going out. That is not right. Fix it ASAP.
Man.
How was that, Earl, for no prep?
That was pretty good. Anybody got one? I got one.
Man,
I got another one if we need it.
I got
man,
one too.
I got one, man. Listen, I hate to, I'm sitting here thinking like, man, this dude really, he has a logo. Like he just put the logo. Now, he might not care today, right? Houston might not care today, but he's going to look back in about 20 years and be like, so you meaning to tell me that logo gets printed everywhere? I see it on hats, I see it on shirts, I see it on everything. And I actually contributed to it. Yeah, see, this is exploitation. This is what the Browns had before. That was the caliber, right there. I don't know why that dog gorilla thing has sparks in his mouth. What is that? That is a cat. That is a cat dog thing. Like this is, and why is everything stick but the back it got a tail in it? Like, I don't know. This is confusing. Matter of fact, I was dating a girl in college, and every time she would wake up on Friday, she would look like that. And I was just like, yo, that's not a good look. But at the end of the day, I do say this, man. Come on, man. I hope that they really hooked this young man up.
I do, too.
I hope his bag was over a certain amount of money. I hope the bag was so good that he was able to afford himself to go abroad to Italy to hang out. Because at the end of the day, come on, man. It was a great logo. I think it's dope. And the only thing I'm asking for is that we're going to have that put on the middle of the field. Do not come out here with these regular helmets no more. I don't want to see the Cleveland Browns logo with just an orange helmet. Get that up out of here. At least give me something. Jason hates the elf. A lot of people hate the elf. All I ask for is put something on the field. Give me a 32 with Jim Brown. No, we're not going to do that as a graphic anymore. Give me that Brown, and we're ready to go.
All right, Earl, before you go real quick, I got to give Anthony's boy Nick a shout-out. Steve, can you get a shot of my shirt? This is the coolest Cleveland shirt I now own. Anthony's friend Nick got it for him at a garage sale. It's an extra schmedium on me. Anthony gave it to me because he was like, there's just not a chance this is going to fit. So he gave it to me. It's the coolest shirt I own.
That's in really good shape for a garage sale shirt.
Yeah.
Anthony, get on the mic. This is a garage sale, right? I'm not botching the story. So
yeah,
shout
it was
out
a
Nick.
yard sale.
Yard
That's
sale,
what he told
garage
me.
sale. Yeah, so shout out Nick for coming through with the clutch with this Bernie Kosar shirt. Now officially the coolest shirt I own.
All right, I'm going to wrap up final takes with this. I know y'all was all like lighthearted, but this is pretty serious. So I run across a lot of people who have a lot of dreams, have a lot of aspirations, but I noticed that they're not willing to do the difficult things necessary to accomplish their dreams. And I think that people need to understand, man, I tell people all the time, be great and spread love. Being great comes with a price. It's not cliche. It's not something that we just say because it sounds good or a cool quote. It truly comes with a price. You got to be willing to blood, sweat, and tears it. And the last thing that you want to do is go to your grave and be looking up and knowing that you had all these things that you wanted to accomplish, but you allowed your fear to stop you from taking the necessary steps to get there. without commitment, you won't get started. Without consistency, you will never finish. So if you're male, female, young, old, and you got any dreams, any aspirations that's out of this world, outlandish, go pursue them. Because as long as you got breath in your body, you can do whatever the hell you want to. You just got to be willing to start. And if you're willing to start and stay consistent, you'll accomplish anything that you truly put your mind to.
Big facts. Can't
Yes,
say
sir.
it any better.
Yes, sir.
I know we got to wrap up here. We talked about it earlier in the show. Go check out last night's Behind the Glass stream. I promise you you'll be entertained, and we will see you on Overtime. Peace.
Peace.